different surroundings. Obviously, I didn't do a show last night because I'm on the road, taking a little break. So I basically just got my phone. So I apologies. Hopefully this setup works. I'm currently in my car because basically where I'm staying, the kids are there, so I can't really get any privacy to do anything. So I'm sort of in my hot car, but that's my commitment. And obviously the promise that I made is that, I would come on here and let you guys know if there's anything happening. So yesterday I was itching to come on just to talk to the chat. If you're new here, this chat is the best. Like I genuinely mean this. I love this chat. This chat on here is the best. So even if you just come here for the chat, get involved. It is honestly the best chat. So where are we with Watkins, Shesco? What is happening? What have I read, consumed in the last couple of hours, days, and whatever else? So the interesting thing, and what we've been saying on here, and I've personally been saying this now for a couple of weeks, not because because I'm the smartest person in the entire world, but we try to be logical on here. And what we've said on here is that, especially over the last 3-4 days, for anyone else was really saying and coming out with it, is that as soon as we go for Shesco, what happens with the Watkins potential deal? So we said that if we go for Shesco, because we felt, and we said this yesterday, that we felt that if we went for Shesco, then Aston Villa are suddenly now going to come and say, oh, well, actually, you can have this player. Ollie Watkins ultimately is not wanted by Aston Villa. I'm not saying by the fans, but as a player with value at 29 years old, and Emery, I don't think he wants the player. They want the player out. So there's that, right? And United want Ollie Watkins, and Ollie Watkins basically wants to come to us as well. So Shesco is, for me, we're in talks with Shesco. We're still in talks with Shesco. Newcastle are in talks with Shesco. Now, reports are Newcastle are slightly moving ahead in that race because Shesco isn't stupid. His camp isn't dumb. They basically know that United, and they don't want to be in the same position as they were with Arsenal, where so Berta at Arsenal decided to line up Gyökeres and Shesco. Shesco was their number one, and Shesco did allude at that point he only really wanted to go to a club where they wanted him. Okay. Now potentially the same thing's happening again. Now, I think Shesco is quite wise to this, and United think they're being smart on here. So United think they're being really, really clever and lining them up both. But Shesco, I get the impression that he wants to come to us. And by some reports that are coming out that he's leaning towards a Newcastle bid because they are doing everything they can to get him. Now, it's holding up the Isco deal. It's holding up so many different things that right currently now there's a block. So Shesco now, I think, is leaning towards a Newcastle deal. Now, what we've been saying on here is that the danger with that, and there's reports coming out this morning as well from Fabrizio, that Aston Villa are prepared to do a deal round about 50 million. Now, I'd love for you to get into the chat. Let me know what you think about this. Ollie Watkins for 50 million. Now, for me, that's already that's a gamble. That's at the top end of what I'd be prepared to pay for Watkins. Now, get into the chat. Let me know what you think about that price for Watkins. But that is the start to show that if if this is United's plan, they are playing a very potentially hazardous game, because at the moment, the very moment, and I'm adamant on this, the very moment that Newcastle enter talks with Shesco and the club, Aston Villa will raise that price back up again, because we've got no cards to play. Okay, and on this chat, the chat on here suggests so many good players. Get into the chat with where you think, if Shesco doesn't happen, if he decides and he leans towards the Newcastle deal, where do we go then? Ollie Watkins at 50. You know, are we then going to be forced into a 55 mil bid for Ollie Watkins? And what you're saying there then is that if you do pay that money for him, you're going for Champions League, because you don't outlay 55 mil on a striker unless you're going to win something. So Arsenal, for example, the reason why they were going to go for him is because they were trying to push for a league. And when you're pushing for a league, you need goals and you need a striker. So it's like what we did with Van Persie. Okay, with VP, 29 years old, guaranteed you goals, guaranteed you assists. You know, you knew that player in his peak. But are we that club yet? You know, if we sign him and he doesn't do that, and he doesn't score goals, it's 50 million pounds basically down the drain. But with Shesco, it's not. So it's a gamble, and everyone else is having their say on this. We've had our say, and what's really funny is different people now, and I'm not saying because they didn't think it, but we come out and said this, is that they're all now picking bits and bobs, not out of because of what we said, but it's funny that the things we said on here, they're now picking bits and bobs. So all anyone is doing right now is basically hypothesizing what they think will happen. So Tony, good morning, my friend. I think still the morning. Tony says we should not be paying any money for Shesco. The nobody. We're gonna have an all-new front three, so I doubt we'll win anything, but we need to prepare for the future ASAP. And when we should not be paying any money for Shesco. Again, thank you for the comment. And again, your comment there is a really good example of what I like on this channel. You know, I'm not going to dictate, and you know, as long as we are talking about things like that. And obviously, I ask everybody who comes on to be respectful of each other's views. And Tony, I think you've come out there with a really, really good channel. As Traveller Max says, Shesco is quality. So Tony, we can talk about that. So thank you for that. That's a really good talking point there. I think it really depends on where you fall. Like, some people think Shesco is a quality player. Some people are unsure. Some people think it's a gamble. Some people think it's a risk. I'm somewhere in between. I think Shesco is a quality player. I think there's no doubt in my mind. Watched him play a couple of times. He's 6'5". He's good with the ball. Fadlu, hi. I'm sorry. I'm just going to pre-warn you. I pronounce names terribly, so I apologise on that one. Tony, I agree that we need. It's difficult, right? If we're not going to win anything this season, and if we're not going to go for a top 4 push this season, right? I don't think we can with this squad. Not with this goalkeeper. Even if we get a Shesco in, even if we get a Watkins in, the goalkeeper, what is going on there? We can talk about that as well. The goalkeeper situation, we need another midfielder. With all those in place, then we've got a potential push. Okay. But if we're not going to go for the top 4, when you sign for like a Watkins, you're saying we're going to get these goals and we're going to do something, but we're not. So Shesco, for me, in terms of value and the potential, I'd much rather go for a Shesco, outlay 69 mil on a 22-year-old, on a who is a quality player, in my opinion. You may not think so, and that's absolutely fine. You may be screaming at me going, no, that's wrong, you know. But I'm open to both. But only on the basis that Ollie Watkins has to be at a lower price for me, 40, 45 million. If it doesn't work, I'm more comfortable spending that money rather than 55. And if we don't do anything and he flops, then that's dead money. Whereas Shesco, you spend 69 mil, even if he doesn't perform for 2 to 3 seasons, he's still only 22 years old. So it really depends on what it is we're trying to do as a club. And the worst thing that we can do is not have that plan. And that's what I'm waiting for. So everybody else, the same as me, and the bigger, like the bigger channels out there, they're guessing as well. We've come on here and we've discussed every option, and somebody ultimately is going to be right. So Tobias, welcome this morning. I prefer Shesco because look, at least last season, how many corners have we converted to goals? That's a very, very good point. We have no Europe. It's best time to invest on the long term. Cracking point. Absolute cracking point. Again, these are the comments. These are the things that we need to be talking about. And that's a bloody good comment. I've not heard that said enough. That is a fantastic comment. Exactly. Now is the time. And that's what I would go for a Shesco, because we're not going to win the league. We're not going to get fourth. Invest now for the long term, hoping potentially you could get into the Champions League. But the flip side of that, and I have to be balanced on this as well, is if we go for a slightly cheaper striker, it gives us the ability to buy a better centre midfielder and a keeper. And maybe we do get into the Champions League, we get that money, and then we do push and we can get these younger players. So again, this is so open, but I love that comment. I truly believe that we're a striker who's 6'5" for corners. I mean, not in European football. So now is the perfect time to invest in that youth. Traveller Max says the issue is link-up play and the keeper. We've seen small bits where the team looks unstoppable and defo can't win when a keeper gives the ball away consistently. And again, another cracking point there. We could get Ollie Watkins, right? Shesco, fantastic. We get these players and an honest in goal. You're going to gain, say we gain 20 points and Arnold's going to lose us 10. So a net gain of 10 points. Okay, don't get me wrong, that's more than last season. But overall, we're still a net, and that's another 10 points that could mean fifth, that could mean fourth. And those are exactly the things that we need to do. So let me ask the chat now. If, for example, if we got Shesco or Watkins, and we say Watkins was 55 million more than we wanted to pay, and that stopped us from getting a goalkeeper, would you sacrifice a goalkeeper for a more expensive striker? Would you rather go for somebody of a lesser name to fix the goalkeeper situation? Obviously, don't forget as well, watching, you give us a like as well. It really helps the channel. It really helps push this out. I'm going to say get in the chat. This community is fantastic. Love new people in the chat. I again, I'll also say this, as many opinions as we can, as long as we are all respectful. Get your opinions in, let us know what you think. I like to interact, even if you don't agree with the things I'm saying. More than happy to have that debate, more than happy to talk about it. You may even convince me to make me change my mind. But yeah, if you're watching, if you're in there, just a little thumbs up, give us a little like. It all really helps. Tony says subpar strikers don't belong, and I agree with you, Tony. I can't remember the last decent striker that we had in terms of consistency, in terms of, we've bought them, they've been coming, they've been consistent, and they've been here for a long time. So we've had Zlatan, who came in sadly towards the end of his career, but Zlatan was a proper striker. But again, but towards the end of that career, wasn't here for 5-6 years. Højlund, I like the kid. I think Højlund's been done dirty by this club. you know, whether or not we can argue. Let me go back slightly there. So Dubai says, besides Shesco, we will be more physical, more fast, more athletic, and dual foot advantage with aerial threat. Besides Sesko, if you mean not including, I think Shesco would bring us all that. But if you're talking about like the team this season, I'm not sure. I don't know. That relies on Amarin doing wonders with this team, and I'm not really convinced that Amarin is. I'm not convinced yet. We'll see tonight. This morning, so I'm going to do a watch along this morning. It's at 2 o'clock in the morning, but I am going to do one, and we'll see how we do against Bournemouth. Today, I'm looking again for that next level. If Mbumo can play, I'll be looking for that. That's why I want to watch that game today. But Tony says subpar strikers don't belong at United. Again, we can have that striker conversation. You know, if let's go back to the past. So Dubai says, well, we can't have Isaac world class like Haaland and Harry Kane. No, we can't. I wouldn't want Harry Kane. And I know it sounds like mad, but Harry Kane for me is what you'd get when you're trying to win a league or when you're trying to find the missing piece. He's too old now. Like a Harry Kane, 28, you're fine. But Harry Kane for me, not right now. As Janet says, hi. I hope you're doing really well today. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, just a little thumbs up. It really does help the channel out. So if we look back and correct me if I'm wrong, and we can talk about striker situation. The next striker we need to get right, or as right as possibly we can. If we're looking for, you can't say that you get Wakins and you're guaranteed to get 20 goals. You can't say that. It's impossible to say that. An educated guess, and the likelihood is you get Watkins and he gets you those goals. The last 2 seasons, I think he's like number 2. He gets you goals, he gets you assists. You can't guarantee that, but you can educationally say you probably will do. If we're looking for that type of striker, but we have to be going for something with that type of striker. There's no point in bringing in a 29-year-old who's going to be 30. If we're actually, what's he going to come for? He's coming for the goals. You know, if he's coming here for experience, but that's a lot of money to outlay for somebody you're not going to get back. So there is risk with that as well. Just a Traveller Max says, I think the team looks physically in better condition this year compared to last. Right. So from what I've seen so far, I don't know if you've watched the Leeds game, and I don't know if you've. Don't go by anything on the United website. Don't go by anything that comes out of the club. Don't buy into all that stuff. If you watch the Leeds game and then you watch the West Ham game, I don't know. Against West Ham, they physically looked better, but did they look far superior to West Ham? No, they didn't. Now, you may watch football in a different way to me. All I heard on that game is how physically fit they look, how Casemiro looks leaner and looks, you know, in better shape. I don't buy that. Like, I watched the games and I think they look better. I think they look slightly better to West Ham, but the proof of the pudding is going to be in the first game. Tonight, I'm looking again for them to be physically better. Bournemouth will be a different proposition. I know they've lost a bunch of players, but I think it's really. I'm not putting the comment down, and if that's what you've seen and you think they look better than this time, then I can't. I'm not going to argue that case. I'm going to say, from my perspective, I've seen them, and they looked better. I agree, definitely looked better, but West Ham looked a little step behind, but that wasn't a gulf in class between them. But let's see how they do tonight, and let's see how they progress, and then hopefully, Mac, you are right, because we need to see that. Mbongipa, and I'm again apologize if I pronounced that wrong. We want Shesco. again, I can't disagree with you on that one, my friend. Best of the rest, I flit hourly between the two. You know, I think where I've landed now, and the boy says Shesco is better overall. Tony says Mbeumo's playing right. If Mbeumo's playing right, then he's playing wing back, because we don't play right side. So he plays right, but he's going to be a number 10 on the right. So he's not a winger. He's not a right forward. He's not a left forward. He's a number 10. Now, whether Cunha's going to be that defensive, not defensive, but more of a tracking back number 10, or whether we're going to have the two number 10s when one goes forward, one goes back, or both go back and we attack as a team. So, you know, you got your number 10s, when we defend, they come back, don't come all the way back, but they kind of come back to that like halfway line, maybe just before that, and then they both move forward together. So we move back as one and move forward as one, or are we going to go one when 10 moves back, one moves forward, or we're going to have one more attacking and number 10 as the other? But in Burma, I don't think he's going to be playing on the right. If he's playing on the right, then he's going to be playing as a wing back, and I don't think he's been brought in for a wing back position. I might be wrong. I'd even have a debate and probably say that Mbeumo is probably brought in potentially as a number 9 as well. I don't like that, but potentially as a fill-in for a number 9. Nobody's actually talking about the Xerxes thing either. Where's Xerxes? Nobody's talking about that. Don't know where he is. He's not played so far, so I don't know whether he's going to be potentially playing that. But I am looking forward to seeing Mbeumo play. I want to see him in that 10 position. I want to see Bruno as a number 8, and then we can start to see what we're trying to build as a team. And it's going to be a very interesting thing. But what is abundantly clear, okay, is whatever happens, whatever we're doing, and we're looking at the striker situation, there it's clear. In this chat, there's been some amazing strikers mentioned. You know, these sorts of the Aracades plays for Genk, 20 odd goals last season. He's 24, 25. A couple of assists. You know, he's not going to be more than about 30 million. You know, plays like that. Sebastian's one as well. And these are the types of strikers. And this is my biggest issue overall. Is because of our lack of foresight and what we've tried to do and our poor buys, we should be buying these second type of strikers, because any decent club will have two good strikers. So you look at City, when they got Haaland, they got Alvarez as well. When Alvarez went on and they paid, and Atletico paid what, 90 million for him. This summer, we should have Højlund. He should be in place. He should be banging in the goals. And then what we should be doing is we should be supplementing that with a Watkins and or another maybe developmental kind of on the cusp of trying to be a number 1 striker. But even if we get a striker in, okay, and this is what the club is doing so well, and this is why I say we need to be careful of spin and hype. Even if we get a striker in, so we get Shesco in, we've got one striker. What happens if he gets injured? Watkins, if we get him in, he's 29, going to be 30. He's more likely that he's going to get injured. You know, he's been playing a lot of football. He played 54 games last season. As you get older, it doesn't mean he's a worse player, but as you get older, trust me, I know, I'm 42 years old. I'm quite an active person. I run a lot. And even I get injured. And these are high end like footballers who play week in. I know they look after themselves. If you're playing 54 games, which he was doing, he's going to get injured. So if these players get injured, then what are we doing? Alan says the club is finished. Don't get me started on my soapbox, my friend. Like I always say, I'll come back to that. That's a golden boy from Gambia. all the way from Gambia. More than welcome here, my friend. Say hi. I hope you're doing really, really well. Alan, the club's finished. I think that is definitely a debate that we could have, and I'd more than happily accommodate you in that. Comment. I share similar views to you on that one. If we start talking about that, trust me, this show will be on for like 3 hours, because we could debate that, and I'm leaning towards you on that one as well. I think the club is on the cusp. What I will say about it is, how can you have a club who is loaded with debt? We are loaded with debt. We have to sell to buy. Apparently, we don't have to sell to buy. We do have to sell to buy. What I'm trying to say, the thing that annoys me more than anything else is that I'm trying to be positive. I'm trying to be positive. This is a time of the year where we can be positive, because we're trying to get new players in, and everything is being made to feel bad. Like, it feels awful. And the one time that it should be a happy time for everybody. We should be celebrating new signings, and they're dragging signings on. They're making everything difficult, and I just find that that's probably a debate topic for maybe for a different show, because I don't have loads of time today. But pin that, my friend. Pin that comment, or I'll pin that comment, and we can definitely have that debate. I think we should definitely have that discussion. I think that's a good point for another show, is that where do we all feel on this, about this window as a whole? Like, how do we feel about it? Have they taken the joy out of that? And what does that mean? Because if we get this season wrong, we could be in some really, we could have some issues if we don't address the goalkeeper, the striker, centre midfielder, and have a good season. I think it could be trouble. The basis says, interesting. How much is your asking price United can bid in for me? Mate, I would do it for free, buddy. Let me tell you something, right? So I'm 42, right? And you know the way like they do this bleep test, and they do like this 5K test, right? So they're all, they're all saying about this 1K test and that kind of stuff, right? And I can still do now. I can still do a 5K in under 16 minutes. So what bugs me about that is not because I'm trying to say that I'm the best, or but if I can do that, and I'm 42 years old, and I put in effort, why can't our players put in effort? I mean, they're playing for the biggest club in the world, one of the biggest clubs in the world. It's an honour. And if some guy from Essex can run a 5K quicker than some of these players, that's not right, is it? Like, I know it's all to do with pace and blah, 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 but they should be busting their gut. They should be busting their hump for this club. And that's what bugs me, is that I would do that job for free. Mate, I would do it for, obviously they'd have to pay me so I could afford a car and stuff, but, I would do that job for free, my friend. Tony Amorim hasn't gotten to prove himself, and that's a good point, Tony. I think to be fair, Tony, I think to be fair to where's the comment? To be fair to Alan, I think it's probably not Amorim that's aimed at. I think that's aimed at the club. I think we had when it comes to Amorim, and again, this does link in as well. So Amorim apparently wants Watkins. So the current situation with Shesco and Watkins, the reason why again it gets so convoluted, we may end up messing this up, is because half of the board or half of the management team want Shesco, so the playing people like Wilcox and Amorim want Wakins because they want goals and they want him, but the developmental side. What's his name? I can't think of his name now. But the Favels, that's it, who had him at Leipzig, knows all that stuff. He wants Shesco. So there's a bit of a divide. Now, all this time that this is happening, Newcastle are pushing. And it might have been last week, and I'm going to keep saying this because I'm going to have this, if it's true, is that I was always of the opinion that I could see Shesco in a Newcastle shirt. And I think I said that last week. And I don't know, I believe that we're in for him. But if we are using Shesco as a make weight for another deal, Shesco's not stupid. He's been here with Arsenal, and Newcastle are going to push this deal. So we are going to know. We are going to know very, very soon. The negotiations may take weeks, but we are going to know very, very soon where Shesco will plan to go. In other news, Garnacho's been pushed out the door. So Garnacho's team believe that they could facilitate and get a move themselves. Hence, that's why he went quiet. United are pushing this and have told him they've got intermediaries in, so they've got people who can help. So Aberdeen says, if you had talked about sports, you would be famous. Shesco is a monster. If you talked about sports, you would be famous. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. That's really kind of you to say. Shesco is a monster. He's young, tall, faster, top scorer. Yeah. Again, at both start, I keep flitting between the two. I think ultimately where I'm at, and this is where I'm at, and people can have their own views on this one. Where I'm at on it, my friend, is if we're trying to get top 4, which I don't think is impossible, but if we're trying to get a top 4, top 5, and that's where we're pushing, then I would go for Watkins, but only under conditions of 40-45 million, no more than 180k to 200k a week. We know we're going to get a keeper, and we know we're going to get a centre midfield player. Under all those conditions, we push for a top 4-5, and that's what we're going to do. If we're not doing that, and we know it's going to take us a couple of years, then you go for Shesco, because that 45 million, as much as it's not a higher price, it's not considered a higher price for a striker. That money's dead. That money's gone. You're not getting that money back. Not even a fraction of it. Okay, you stick Watkins on a 5-year deal, 250k will be the worst deal that we could do. Even at 45 mil, 250k a week for a 5-year deal, that will be what I think that's the worst deal that we can do, because you've got a money that you are basically saying to him, we need you to fire us into the Champions League. If that's not what the plan is long term, you go and get Shesco, younger. Even if he flops a bit, I mean, Højlund's flopped, and you can still get 40 million for him because of these wages low, and because he's so young. So you're not gonna financially, unless he breaks his leg or he literally becomes like awful, you're gonna make your money back. Like, even if you have him for 5, 6, 10 years, it's value for money. And if we are going to do that over the long term, then you have to go for Shesco. He is talented. He is a young guy. It is a risk. But if you're going for that long term, you have to go for Shesco. Watkins is the here and present. You've spent that money. That money's dead. The money's gone. You can't get that back. In 5 years' time, when Watkins is there or thereabouts, finished, Shesco's not. He's 27. So you're still going to get your money back potentially, but conversely, if you get Watkins and you get into the Champions League and you get the money, then you can buy more Shesco, you can buy more players. So it really depends on what the plan is now. But the worst thing that we can do is flipped from plan to plan. We need to stick to a plan and go for it. If it works, it works. If it fails, it fails. But we have to be very clear. Not us as fans, as a club, we have to be very clear about what it is that we're trying to do. The basis says, hope none of the youth players got their idol as Sancho. United are saying they're going to remove toxic culture at the club, and I think they are trying to do. I think Amarin is trying to do that. Sancho is definitely going to go. He's not going to stay. You know, Anthony, they're working on that. I know that Saudi are trying to get that deal done. They are trying to get that deal done. Anthony, for all of his faults, I don't think he's a toxic player. You know, I think he's one of the players that if a gun was put to my head and we had to keep a player, I'd be more open to keeping him than anyone else. But we're not going to do that, and I think he is going to go. So Garnacho is being pushed out the door. He's being pushed out the door. As I said, United are now bringing in third parties in to get him out this door. So Chelsea are the club. The sources from that club now are coming out and saying, you know, like they are trying to do a deal. But if they want to do that deal, Chelsea to me, and I'll be consistent in what I said on this. If Garnacho wants to go to them, then for Chelsea it's 55 million. Like it's 50 million. You know, if as a club we need to do a deal, and I believe if we get the Anthony deal done, I think we can do other moves, and we don't need the Garnacho money, particularly with the Rashford, the wages saved with him, particularly with the money going to be saved from Sancho, Anthony, etc. The Garnacho money would be good, but for Chelsea, it's 55 million. What they do in the market with their players, Sancho is worth 55 million. If Alanga's going for 55, Sancho is worth that. Younger, just as talented, assist goals at that age, experience, he's worth 55 million. Now, we could bang on about Amrin has hurt his reputation, but ultimately he is a talent and a potential star. If Chelsea want that, then they pay for that. And that's not a dig at the Chelsea fans. I know that they're not exactly happy with their club either, but 55 million for them for that deal. If not, then he sits on his ass for a year. You know, even if Sanchez sits on his butt for a year, he's still worth 35 million. And I'd much prefer him, the way that he's treated as fans, the way that he's put himself across as a club, what he's trying to do now. He's trying to devalue himself as well. Let's not forget that. Aston Villa shirt, that I want that kid gone now. He deserves that. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see a youth kid be treated in that way, but he's not going to kick and scream and then get his own way. So if we can't get the money that we want, providing we don't need it, if we do need it, then we're screwed and we've got to sell him. But if we don't need that money, then he can just sit on the bench and rot, and he'll still be worth the same next season. So, and then he misses out on a World Cup. So the onus is on him to move, and that's, I think, where I'm at with that. So don't forget, obviously, to give us a thumbs up and a like. It's sort of much appreciated as always. I am going to have to vacate the premises because I'm going to drive back now for 4 hours. If anything does break, if I can, I'll stop and let everyone know. I'm going to do a watch along tonight. So it's at 2 p.m. at British time in the morning. Bournemouth tonight, so I'm going to jump on and do a watch along for that one. And then when I get back, obviously, if anything does break, I'll be back in my normal bits and bobs, and I'll update everybody on that. As I will always say, and I mean this, you know, doesn't matter if you stick in a one chat or 50 chats. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for giving me your time. You've given me nearly 40 minutes of your time today, and I promise you, I don't say it just for saying its sake. Like, if it's not for this chat, and I love this chat, it means so much to me. It means so much to the channel. It means more than you will ever know for people to come and interact with me on this channel and give me your time. That's one thing that money can't buy, is time. And you're giving me your time today. So I genuinely cannot thank you enough for that. And do not underestimate what you giving your time means to me and this community as well. This is a fantastic community. Get involved. You know, if you see us on, just come in for the chats. Even if you don't like the things that I do and say, let's come in there for the chat, because we do have some amazing people in the chat, and all the legends in the chat today. Abu, Tobias, I think it's your name, Golden Boy, Alan, Tony, the boy, Mobbin Bird, Janet, so Travelers in there as well, to Tony, Fadulu, sorry, I pronounced your names wrong. You know, all you guys in the chat today. Amazing. Thank you so much. So thank you for watching. If you look on the channel, my X and Outlook and things are on there, so feel free to message like the channel. Is there anything you want me to cover? You know, like for example, we can cover maybe some stuff on the show about the club and what we all feel about the club, and we can come together and talk about that as well. So as always, I mean, if anyone's got anything else they want to say before I go, you know, I'm more than happy to segue some stuff in. Just before I go, you know, I'm always happy to segue in a last little chat there. I don't know if anybody wants the last word. I'm hoping to people having the last word as well. So it's up to you guys. If not, then I'm going to go. And I will say, have a wonderful rest of your day, wonderful morning, afternoon, evening. If you can join me for the live game, the watch along today, or is at 2 p.m. British morning time, so it's going to be quite early here. But if you can be on there, that's fantastic. Come and say hi. If not, then I will speak to you hopefully very soon. Have a good one, and again, thank you so much for watching. Take care, guys.